Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experience, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce you to a few sponsors that help make this podcast possible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mountain Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kyle and Tim podcast. I'm Mike Kindle. This is Kyle. Or this is Tim.
I'm Kyle and Tim. Kyle had to run, but he's going to be here for the podcast. Don't worry.
Don't you guys worry. He'll be here.
All right, Mike, what did we talk about?
We talked about all sorts of stuff. We talked about injury, investing, aliens. It was all over the place.
Those are a lot of good topics.
These are good topics for a podcast.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. We're golden.
Gentlemen, how are we?
Mike, welcome back to the show. Great to have you here. How you feeling? What's going on right
now? I've felt better in prior weeks with the MCL tear in my knee. But we're slowly putting weight on it, seeing how it feels. It's a solid work in progress.
Do you want to walk us through how it happened and who's to blame?
I would love to. I want everybody at Montana MMA to know it was Clay. Don't heel hook him, but like a couple wrist locks and just Shark Tank him a little bit.
Some muffle chokes.
Yeah. Because I made a point to not tell anybody who did it because I was like, I don't want him to be getting smoked or being like, yeah, I hurt my best friend or anything. But he came over last night and we had tacos and I was like, I'm gonna totally throw you under the bus tomorrow.
Good.
He's like, all right, man, I'm ready for it. Yeah, we were just doing some takedown drills. We take a single leg and then you sweep out the other leg. I don't know if we were in the cage, if that just had too much grip on it, or we came too high, or whatever happened. But the second his leg connected with my leg that was on the mat, it just pop, pop. And then we went down on about a half a second. I was like, we're gonna stop now and quit rolling. I tried moving it a little bit, and I was like, oh, something's wrong. And so we called it a day. I went out to the benches at the gym, and Marnik was sitting there, and Sammy was sitting there, and Ty was sitting there, and I looked down at my knee. And I'm like, I should lay down. And the next thing I know, all three of those guys are waking me up, shaking me, and they're like, "What? You okay?" And I was
waking you up.
Yeah, I was like, "What happened?" I was like, "Oh, I went out." If my body, when I hurt my shoulder, if it takes a large amount of trauma, I think it's something to do with the blood pressure. But I was sitting on the bench, and I get this weird kind of I'm gonna faint feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it was instant. It was immediately you're going out.
Interesting.
And, yeah, it's weird. You come back and you kind of feel like you're in a weird dream for a second. You get this warm, clammy feeling too. It usually happens once. Poor Sammy had to catch my head 2 days before a fight. I was like, I really hope I didn't hit you in the head with my fat head right before you go and fight in a cage.
Have you ever been choked unconscious or no?
The closest I've ever been was you, actually, when I was a new white belt and you were still a blue belt. You bow and arrowed me, and I was like, I can fight this. And then I was like, oh no, I can't fight this. I'm toast.
That's funny. That's the choke that I almost went out on too.
Yeah, and now I'm obsessed with the bow and arrow and the gi. I'm just it's so powerful.
It's such a good choke. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done gi in ages, but it's such a good gi choke.
Well, maybe when I'm not hurt, you should come back to the gi. The gi misses.
Hey, I've been talking about it.
You should. But yeah, that's my knee. Where you went to the orthopedic, Bridge Orthopedic here in town, and they're thinking it's a level 3 or 4. 4 means surgery. It's a complete tear. When the guy at the office was explaining what the tears do, he's like, this is your ligament, this is a 1, this is a 2, and this is a 3. and then this is a 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's gross. I'm gonna try not to like faint again. I don't do well with like blood or injuries or needles or things like that. So we're just waiting on an MRI right now. Insurance will kick in the first of the year, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully no surgery.
So what exactly happened? Because for some reason I'm not picturing it. Did he land on your leg on the ground?
No. He had one leg in the air, and he went to go kick out the other leg. And the second his leg hit my other leg, it just
I got you.
popped.
Did your foot twist or anything?
I don't know. It was like, it's so fast, because in the process, the second that leg hit it too, it also put me down too.
Did he kick the inside of your foot or the outside?
It was the outside, so it's the MCL, which is the inside of your knee.
Yeah. That's what mine was, and I think I told you it made a very audible pop.
Everyone's like, did you hear it? Did you feel it? At least as far as like doctors are concerned. And I don't know, because we were doing rounds prior to that too.
Yeah.
So like in the moment, your adrenaline's high, your blood's flowing, you're kind of having fun. But I remember like 2 distinct pops. I just don't know if I heard them or he could hear them too.
Yeah, it was. I heard it more than I felt it. That was what was so alarming. And then I just like, when I went to stand up, I was like, I like went right back down. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah. I tried standing up and like walking out of the cage, and like took like one step, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening today.
Remind me too. Those knee braces are in my truck.
Cool.
I put them under the backseat of the truck, and then I just didn't know where I'd put them. So
What are you doing to rehab it?
Right now, I'm just waiting. I'm trying to find out what level of tear is.
They're not having you do anything.
The PT will come after we find out what level of tear it is.
Okay, so they're not. I guess, how long has it been?
This was 10 days ago.
Okay. Yeah. Did you ice it at all over those 10 days?
Yeah. Icing, elevating, heating.
Okay, so you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get the blood flow, inflammation down.
I'll tell you what Shay told me, Shay O'Neill, to do when I popped mine, is he said collagen, fish oil. I thought there was one more, but definitely like collagen and fish oil, just to help the joint read. And he essentially said, try to keep moving it as much as you can.
Yep.
Like, because the more blood flow that goes to it, the more it's going to heal.
Yep.
That's why I told you I went to the hot spring every day, and I did it for like 30 days. I'd sit in that really, really hot one in the center, and then like, because I could really not move it, I could barely drive.
Right.
Yeah, because it was my right. But then like I'd sit in that hot, and then I could just move it a little bit, and just enough to like start bending it. And then that, I swear that helped a lot. But they say if you don't keep it mobile enough, the scar tissue, like the way it'll heal, you'll get a bunch of bad scar tissue. But if you keep moving it, it'll heal in a way that like is allowing the mobility. But if it heals, well, it's just not moving, I guess it won't optimize the function. And from what I understand, obviously I mostly don't know what I'm talking about, but this is just what I did in my experience.
No, I think movement is super good. I don't care what injury
for
it
blood
is.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, but just like, you want to get that range of motion back. So.
Yep. I was testing yesterday, like where my ranges were. There were certain days I'm able to like walk on without the crutches. And I think I overdid it yesterday, which is why I like gimped in here.
I'll tell you what he told me too, and I don't want to will this onto you, but he told me I should get crutches because he said if I limp a lot, it's gonna start to bother my back.
It did,
and my back, like 3 or 4 days in, I was like, fuck. Yeah, and I never got crutches. You're already smarter than me for having crutches, but yeah, like my back was bothering me for like a week, and I was like, God damn it, he said this, but you're just the way you're walking is weird for your back.
Yeah. The like next day from walking on crutches, my back was hurting me, and you can't like I try to do like a long mobility routine every morning at the gym. And you absolutely cannot with one of your legs because it's connected to everything. So like every time I move this shoulder, I can feel it pull those ligaments. So that's also been unpleasant. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, if you like, I don't know, if you feel like it, I would almost recommend trying that, just soaking in that hot tank.
Yeah.
Like, just for mobility. It'd be amazing. I could barely move my knee, and then by like 30 minutes in, I could like almost fully bend my knee.
Yeah.
So just slowly going back and forth. I'm like, hey, that's got to be good, because maybe some people could say that's not good, and I'm prolonging the recovery, but
the rate at
but it worked.
Yeah, I'm like, it's full. I'd say it's 100% now, and I guess They say sometimes it gets stronger when you like tear it. And
I don't know anything about this stuff either. But I would say every time I got hurt or anybody on my team got hurt in college, the trainers would make us do anything that we could for like range of motion. So like if you could only move it this much, then he was like, all right, well, just keep moving it that much then. Then a day later you can move a little more, and a day later you move a little more, and then 30 days later you can move it a ton, you know. But they just were like, look, you have to keep moving it, and then hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, which is basically just blood flow. And that seemed to work for everybody's injuries. So
yeah,
that's, I only know from experience of like, just keep moving it. Go to like right where the limit is, where it really hurts, and then don't go any further.
The strange thing too is like it's not like a painful feeling. It's like a tightness in the knee joints too. It swole a little bit. It didn't like really bruise much either, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I guess it's not muscular, so that would make sense that it wouldn't like really bruise. Before this,
it didn't swell that much.
It swelled a little bit like the third day, but not like my wife could tell, but it didn't.
Yeah, I don't think mine did swell that much either. The worst part was after it got better. It's when I could walk pretty good, and then I'd forget, and then it's like the stupidest thing when you're rolling, like somebody just kicks your foot, and you like you kind of like does like a heel hook motion, and then you feel it again. And then I remember one day specifically, my tailgate's down on my truck, and I'm like, oh, well, let me see if I can jump up on the tailgate, like a box jump, because I got to make sure I'm still in, and like instantly as soon as I did it, because you stop thinking about it when you don't feel it anymore, and then you're
like, no, I can't do a box jump.
Well, that's why they say to wear the brace even after it's healed, because it reminds you, like, hey, it's a reminder for yourself.
Yeah, man, your gate's not like 2 inches or like 24 inches off the ground either. Your gate's pretty high up there, man.
Yeah, which I can do it just fine if anyone's wondering.
Yeah, we're getting there. Before this got hurt, I was working with Ben at Ascend. Was it Ascend or Ascend?
Yeah, Ascend, I think.
Yeah, and he was doing some ligament strengthening stuff. So I'm wondering too, like how much
your money back.
Yeah. I'm curious how much of like strengthening these joints prior helped it. And seeing if maybe it would have been like a worse injury without that. And he had a lot of stuff that was good for like working through it as well. That I'm going to utilize in like, alignment with PT when that happens as well.
Yeah, the stuff he does is interesting because he told us about it when he did the podcast, and then I just went over with him and he did the whole run through of it. But it is conceptually it makes perfect sense that you're just strengthening your joints in ways that you otherwise wouldn't.
Right.
It seemed like it just logically makes complete sense, and he says there's a lot of science behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed when I was doing it with him, like my shoulder that also tore a ligament improved like very quickly too, with the ranges of motions and ability to move them, and then the pain too in it.
Yeah, like I guess you didn't like. I mean, you heard him talking about it. But you'd essentially
makes complete sense.
You put your arm in like under a load like this, and that's where you like strengthen, like strength train, and that's what starts to get. And it's like same thing for your knees, but it makes like we never really like kind of strengthen that way. We'll do like this sort of stuff and this stuff, but it's not like there's not a lot that we do where you're like. But it's interesting because it'll show you could like your max is here, and then after just a minute or two of like holding resistance, like you can go so much further. It's I don't know. It's interesting to see how. I'd imagine if you did that fairly religiously, even once or twice a week, it'd probably really pay off.
Yeah. It was like notable percentages, like almost instantly too.
I don't know. It's so hard to like know what else to do for your body and health if you like are already doing jiu-jitsu, which depending on how bad your addiction is to it, like you're spending so many hours a week doing that, and then how many hours do you try to strength train, having like all this mobility stuff, and it's like, man, if I'm not a professional athlete that's getting paid, it's really hard to justify all the time and then live a life and have a family and work a job. And so I don't know. It's like, what do you do? Like, so
it's a balancing act like everything else in life.
Yeah. I try really hard to have my strength training be like mobility training too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like I'm always trying to use like a full body.
Yep.
I'm not doing like just like, seated curls or seated shoulder. Everything is usually standing or like in the plank position, and it's trying to use most of my body and like kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. Because how much time do you have?
Yeah, you're getting a mobility workout. At the same time, you're getting a strength training workout. At the same time, you're meditating. At the same time,
Precisely.
you're listening to 50 Cent and you're at a rap concert.
Yeah.
Somebody described the gym to me as just like an angry, silent disco once. I was like, that makes total sense.
Pull that mic a little bit closer. Perfect. Now talk.
Better.
Yeah, that sounds good. Right on. So what's your so what are you doing with all your free time besides going crazy?
I'm doing a lot of seated workouts.
Did you try the running on the treadmill yet?
No, I did not.
Oh, you know what might be good for it if you feel up to it to get started is riding a bike and like a stationary bike, because it'll just get that movement going,
Right. Yeah, I've been going to the gym still like every day just for like the mental aspect of it. At first I was doing just like a weird like seated row, like the cardio row. I want to keep my heart rate at like a high level. We're so used to jiu-jitsu keeping it at like 140 to 160, and I'm comfortable there. But it's really hard to do it with just your upper body to like hold that and get there and maintain it. Yesterday I was on the assault bike, and under like a very, very low speed, I was actually seeing if I can move it up and down with it too. I'm seated like way higher than I normally would, so it's not like that full typical range of motion. Yeah. But just trying to like get that movement in there and just like move it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're working on it, but I can tell it's gonna take time, and the physical part's fine, but like the mental part of being injured, especially when like you spend as much time doing jujitsu, that part's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to like, I guess I'm like all over the place in my mind right now. But totally aside from all your injuries and shitty stuff that's going on, I just want to make it a point to thank you, because since you've done the podcast the last time with us, we've just become better friends. And I've like the amount of the people I've met since then because of you, and also the stuff I've done for my business because of the value you've added as far as you worked in the industry. It's like, it's just been a huge help. So like, thank you, the investor club, people I've met through there, stuff I've done in my business. So thank you very much.
I've experienced a lot of gratitude since living here, specifically like since this injury too, the amount of people who have like reached out. But I'm like just a firm believer, like if you are doing something great in life, or like even if you like go to like a nice restaurant or see a nice place, like yeah, it's fun to go there solo, but like if you can take people you care about with you, that's for like anything good. That's why there's like a handful of people I've been like, yeah, come to the investor group, like yeah, come do this, or like this thing is gonna really help the future of me and my wife and my family. Like, who wants to be on top alone? That sounds horrible. Like if you can take people you care about and help them improve too. It's not like a feast or famine or you versus me. It's like we can win. Like, all of us can win. That is how I intend to make more things happen.
Yeah, well, thank you. Me and Kyle have talked about this, like the scarcity mindset, of like thinking it's only, and it's like anyone who has it, it's really not their fault for the most part, because it's just something you're taught when you're growing up, and depending on the finances and the situation you grew up with, and like your parents or wherever your guardians are, like it's sort of passed down.
Yeah,
but I think it's like a survival.
It's everywhere.
It's a survival instinct for humans. Is like, hey, if I give you some, I'll have less. And like, but it's ironically the exact opposite is generally true. Like the more I give you, the more I can have.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good book called The Go Giver that I recommend everybody goes and checks out. And it kind of talks like specifically on that, like some of the most successful people in the world don't have that scarcity mindset, like that ability to have the we can win, has led to a lot of success for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, I noticed, sorry, Kyle, I know I cut you off. You're about to say something. It's like, it'll show up in so many different areas too of my life. Like, oh, like I got to figure it out with money. And then it's like, is it showing up with training, or is it like anything? And you're thinking like, it's like any bad pattern you've had your whole life, you got to work your ass off to change it. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something, but I don't know. I don't know what to say because I have the mindset and I'm trying to get rid of it. So, yeah, it's something that it's helpful to focus on and notice it. Because in my mind, at least in my mind, it's everywhere. It's all the time, and I have to like really work hard at it to just even get rid of a little bit of it.
If you really want to challenge yourself, at least this is a challenge for me, is to start to go into any business or any industry and then try to apply that abundance mindset or whatever you want to call the mindset that's the opposite of scarcity to your competition. Because that's when you really see it show up. And like, that's like,
what do you mean by that? Say that again.
Well, if you like, scarcity mindset is like, man, if they're getting business, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you kind of have to know there's enough business for everyone, and like undercutting them, whether it's prices or whatever scheme you want to, is not going to like, it's not going to do you or them any good. But if you just show up as your best self in your business and do, the best you can, like there's plenty for everyone. And if there's just really not, then maybe that's not a great business to be in.
Yeah, like if yeah, probably.
But it's not like it's hard to apply then, because it's like, man, why, like everyone else is getting the work and I'm not? What the hell? Like, and then you like I've noticed that of myself. So it's, why does that company have 25 cars and I got 3 and I'm not even that busy? Like, what the hell are they doing? Like,
I also think that like people, we're falsely comparing ourselves or our business to other people, right? And so like you may not even want to have 25 fucking cars, right? Because you don't know what it's like to have 25 cars. Or you don't know what it's like to have 25 cars in that way.
Yeah.
You might want to have 25 cars your way.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's all kinds of different ways to do business, right? Some people do business and you're like, dude, I would not do it that way. You're in the same business. It's like, okay, you do transportation. Oh, I do transportation. Okay, cool. You do it differently than I do. You have a different business model. So I think we, even in comparing businesses inside of the same industry, is hard. Like what publicly traded versus privately owned versus, you have tons of investors, whatever.
Yeah, I got you.
I can resonate with that though. Like even like with lawn companies, it's like these guys have like fleets of vehicles out there, and it's like I'm struggling for work in the winter. Like what the hell are they doing that I'm not doing?
Yeah,
like challenging that mindset is like a constant battle to like try to stay on top of it.
And what I've learned, like,
but it doesn't mean that they're running a better business.
Yeah, correct.
Just because they have more quantity.
Correct.
Right? Like they also might be fucking $1 million in debt and they're worried as fuck.
Yeah.
And they're like, how am I going to pay these investors back? How am I going to pay these bills? Like I went in over my head. Like maybe they made a bad decision 5 years ago and they're just barely getting by right now.
Yeah.
I think there's just plenty of businesses that like are surviving off of fake. They call them zombie companies, right? So like that's a term that's been well known as like they're literally operating on credit, and they're literally operating on bad credit, meaning the credit is killing their business, and for them to pay their bills, they're literally making like this much on top of that,
right?
And they're basically breaking even. And like, there's no point in running a business if you're just going to break even, like,
right.
For a long period of time. If you break even for a while and you have a long-term vision and it pays off year after year after year, great, right? But like, if you're running a business after a long period of time and you're just breaking even, what's the point?
Yeah, that kind of relates to what they've talked about in a lot of like the real estate groups, where it's like these people might have these like flashy cars, big houses, but like they can't take the breaks. They can't, step away. They have to be continuously doing the job that they're doing. Compared to some people that might live like more modestly and actually have that like freedom in their life.
Yeah.
It's very easy to just fall into that trap of like the same thing when you're comparing yourself to other people, but comparing your business to other businesses. You just don't have enough context to to know.
There's a really good financial podcast, or like this was one podcast that was a financial one with the Diary of a CEO guy. I don't know, I don't forget his name, but he interviews this guy who talks about this exact thing, and he's like, there's all kinds of these businesses out there that they look big and successful, and he's like, they don't make any money. Yeah. And so they talk about like the happiest guy that they know, and mutual friends or whatever, has more money than everybody and has like the simplest business. He has like 2 employees and like they have no overhead, and he's like simple. It's simple and it makes really good money, and he has more money than anybody that they know. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
I wonder if there's a group like that in town that could kind of like touch on those points. Like there's the real estate one that we're in. I know there's like a small business one in town too that has, I think you have to have like X amount of employees though in order to get into it. But something that kind of like points on those and kind of talks about like the ability for small businesses is to find like success while still remaining small. Something where like there's a collaborative effort to that would be very useful, because Bozeman is full of small businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole state of Montana.
Yeah.
Like Montana is like small businesses, like 90. It's like high 90%. Mm-hmm. It's basically every business in the whole state is small.
Yeah, I mean, how many trucks do you see around with a logo slapped on the side of it? It's like 1 in 5, if not more. Like it's insane.
Yeah. It's funny that like thinking about the conversations at the investor club, and that place is awesome. I think it's really cool just to talk with different people who have different ideas and bounce ideas off each other. Like, oh, I never heard of that before, but like there's an real estate broker that just sent out a report this week in town, and so vacancies for condos and apartments have hit 10% now. So because it's a timing game, right? So like all these apartments and condos hit the market basically all at the same time. And so the vacancy went from 1% to 3 to 6 to 10 really quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, but you also live in a small town. So like you got to look at the law and numbers, right? So like if you add 1,000 apartments to a town of our size, like that makes a huge jump. Now, is 1,000 apartments that many apartments? Not really, right? But it's huge for our market. And so 6 months from now, the vacancy might jump a big number down.
Right.
But like if you look at the economics of it, just numbers wise, you're like, you do not want to be going to market right now. Mm-hmm. Meaning you do not want to finish a condo complex right now. Because there's places that are 25% rented.
Yep.
So that means they're dying.
Yep.
But they have like a lot of apartments and they look like this big real estate development company. And you're like, cool. Wow, I want to be like them. No, you don't. Not right now.
Yeah, the percentage wise, if you say like 1,000 apartments to like 60,000 people, it's just such a huge percentage, and they're still going up too. Like everywhere we go around town, it's like there's a new one there, there's a new one there.
Yeah, so it's a timing game, right? Because it could be a really good, like it might work out great for these people, but it's just bad right this moment.
Right. I am curious. They brought that up in the investor group. I don't know if you guys were there that day when they're like, "What are you guys doing for rent?" Because now you've seen like there's like the free
rents
months.
Have gone down.
They've gone down.
Rents are going down.
Mm-hmm. And then there's still like those apartments that are like, yeah, we're gonna still charge $3,000. Like you said, they're empty. No one's paying that.
Mm-hmm. That's why they're going down, right? So they're gonna start at $3,000. They're gonna go to $2,900. They're gonna go to $2,800. Whatever the dollar, like the dollars are gonna go down as time goes if they sit empty.
Yep. Yeah. I know one of the gals of the group was saying she was kind of having like a battle with her property manager. And they're like, we can get this. And she's like, no, you can't. And I think it's still vacant today.
Yeah. So that's interesting, right? So how long can the owners of those properties not take rent on?
Yeah.
That's the same thing with my business too, though, is it's so busy right now that I wish I had more vehicles. And then how, like, in April, the end of April, when the ski slopes close, it's like, cool. Now I've got 5 vehicles to pay on. And like people depending on work from me and insurance. And I think you really have to, like, as you're saying to the apartments, is like, hopefully the folks that build them are forecasting more long term, because there's, like, seasons. There's literally seasons in my business, but there's going to be seasons of kind of growth and decline and all in between. So I think your model needs to kind of have all that sort of thought in, like, hey, there's going to be times like where this is going to be hard to rent on, and then like a few years later, I'm like, hell yeah, look at us, we're at 100% occupancy, right? Like prices are through the roof. Like, but if you don't set yourself up so you can get through those times like now, then, but like I think that's when it comes back to that scarcity mindset of like everyone can be like, oh no, nobody build now, everything's like rent's going down, vacancies going up, and then some people are going to say, you know what, this is how life works. There's seasons and there's cycles, so we're going to keep doing what we know how to do. We've been smart in the past, we'll be smart in the future, yada yada. But I get what you're saying. Like, you have to be able to financially like ride those waves, and I've realized that with my company. And I don't know, it's like not the most fun thing.
No, it's winter right now.
The anxiety of like making a bunch of money and getting excited, and then you want to buy more and do more, build your company, and then to have that anxiety when it like cuts off, and it's like, I got to sit here and like deal with this uncomfortable and continue to go forward. And it's like, this is why a lot of businesses just stop, because this sucks. Like, it might just be easier to go get a job right now. It's steady. It's a steady paycheck. I don't have so much anxiety.
I am right there with you with like the landscaping company. It's like, oh, it's winter. And in the last 2 years of snowfall, it's like, where the fuck is the snow? It's been like no
because
snow.
you're doing snow plows. Yeah, so you don't make any money when it doesn't snow.
Nope.
At least that's probably at least 50% of the businesses in Montana is seasonal.
Yeah, it seems, when I was talking to a gentleman from Big Sky years ago, and we were talking about real estate, and he was saying, what is like the big economic driver here? Because there's not like currently there's not like plantations here, there's not manufacturing here. It's like mostly outdoor seasonal things too.
It's tourism,
which is another seasonal type of thing too, you know. Yeah, that kind of leads into like a big thing I've been thinking about lately of like, what I'm doing right now is, okay, what else can I do that doesn't depend solely on seasonal factors? And that one's another work in progress. AI has actually been really helpful too. Like, hop on ChatGPT and you're like, here's the things I like what, you know, I don't want to worry about this, and this. I've spent like 30 minutes just like going through all these possibilities of like, that's something I could see myself doing. That's something I might find that joy from and happiness from, that is less dependent on what the weather does.
I was going to say, I'll tell you that because you were making me think when you were talking.
Back.
First, I'll tell you what, this is a quote my girlfriend said. I don't know where she heard it from, but she said, AI won't replace people, but people with AI will replace people without AI.
Yeah, it's absolutely a tool. Like, there's a lot of that fear of like, you know, the Terminator is going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if it will or won't, but like, I can't change that. But what I can do right now is take the tools that are given to me and utilize them.
It already has, like, in a sense, happened with our smartphones.
Yeah.
So I didn't, I guess I'll wait for Kyle to get back to tell you about this. Like, remind me or put a footnote in it, what you were just talking about, essentially using it to kind of like figure out directions.
Yeah.
You were just, I'll start my pitch to that, or what it was making me think anyway when he gets back. But.
Cool. Miss him. It's so lonely without him.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Forget Kyle. All right. So when you were saying like you like to get your cardio up, and you were saying that like it's more mentally, it's more about a mental thing than a physical thing.
Right.
You're perfect. Kyle's back anyway. So
welcome back, Kyle.
I think I told you this, that I went to Tony Robbins.
You did, yeah.
So a client of mine was very kind, and she gave me and my girlfriend tickets to the Tony Robbins live event, Unleash the Power Within.
And so sick.
Yeah, it's like And I don't know who has and who hasn't ever seen this, like what this is. I only vaguely had an idea of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a documentary on it.
Okay, yeah,
You're Not My Guru.
yeah. They talked about it there.
There's it's like on Netflix. It's like I don't know, maybe it's an hour and a half long, but it's basically it's kind of like, sorry, that's a different tangent my brain went on. I was like, is it really a documentary? It's a modern documentary of like a week-long Tony Robbins event.
Yeah. That, what do they call that one? They talked about it there. They said if you want to know more about it, you could watch this documentary. Documentaries are basically like sales movies anymore.
Yeah,
they're always very biased.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they're like all super one-sided now.
So I'll give you the lightest, like a really short version of essentially at least what the Tony Robbins was for me. So it's like a 4-day event. They call it immersion. So you get like very immersed in the environment of the people, the energy. There's a lot of music. It's a lot of like get you in a really good state, like state of mind, emotionally, mentally, so that you make better decisions and like you do what you want to do in life and you buy all their stuff. I'm not sure. But anyway, so they have you do this one exercise, like when they get you all jacked up and excited and feeling good, and like it's very contagious when there's 12,000 people around you. Like it's intense. Like I did not realize how intense it would be. So, but they have you do this exercise, and he says there's the 4 human needs, and then there's like the 4 basic human needs and the 2 spiritual needs. And the 4, I'm going to try to remember them all. Let's see. The 4 basic human needs are a need for certainty, a need for uncertainty or variety, a need for significance, and why am I not remembering the 4th one? Significance and, okay, the 2 spiritual needs are growth and contribution. I don't know why I'm not remembering the 4th one. Significance. Anyway, it'll come to me. So what you do is they have these workbooks, and you essentially, like, what he says is we always find a way to meet all these needs. And like there's 2 needs that we focus on the most that are our main drivers. And then like you can kind of you'll prioritize 2. And like so if you have a need to be significant, you might want to be a CEO of a company, or you might want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Or you might like dress really like, absurdly, or man, I wish I could remember the last one. But anyway, he has you go through it and write the negative ways that you meet those needs and the positive ways. And it was so interesting to me because I would see like jiu-jitsu would hit like all of those, like all 6.
Positive or negatively?
Positively.
Good.
But you could see like you would start to see like, oh, negatively, like I'm getting significant. You could say your job, like my job makes me feel significant, but it's a negative way because I hate my job.
Right.
Like I hate the work. And then you could say like you could look at it with like dating, or like, do I like that? Yeah, it gives me the variety, but it's negative because I'm like sleeping with a bunch of girls that are like, I don't know, just not the kind of like, probably shouldn't just be sleeping with a bunch of girls to like get a bunch of variety in life, or maybe you should if that's what you want to do. But you start to see like it's a really interesting exercise to do, and just see like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. And like, it made me change so many things since I got back from it. Like the way I'm approaching things.
Like, what'd you change?
Well, I think I sort of told you this. I was doing a lot of carpentry work, but like I was like prioritizing it for all the wrong reasons. And I wasn't prioritizing my business for the right reasons. And I'm like, just like changing a few things in the mindset. I was like, oh, like it's my ego. Like my ego liked being a carpenter, and like I felt some significance to it. But like and like I'm giving you the light version of it, but it's like, I'll show it to you. I'll send you a picture of the thing. It's like,
please.
It's very helpful. Like I was like, I did not expect this. I thought they were just gonna like chant for 4 days and try to sell me a bunch of stuff. It was actually very helpful. We walked across Kohl's.
Lay this one out. Paint this picture, because I've heard this story, and I want to hear all the details of how you and 12,000 people walked across Kohl's.
They literally have 30-foot coal beds, and they like, he's like, I don't know. Apparently, fire walking is a very like. There's people that do it all over the world. It's been going on for a long time. It's all about your mindset, emotionally, and like mentally, and you're kind of like willing your body to like be able to do it or not do it. Like this obviously isn't science, so I'm not going to try to, but like, I'm sure if you read up on this, but like he gets you in this state of mind and like just gets you so certain and so confident and like, I don't know, like then you're like, oh wow, this is mob mentality. Like everyone's just like, yes sir. Like you almost like go into a trance. And I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, oh, this is probably dark to say, but this kind of explains like Vietnam.
Yeah.
Or not like, or not even Vietnam.
Nazis.
Yeah, like Nazi, like the whole like Hitler and everything. Like if it's strong enough, like Holocaust, like I don't know, if like enough people believe in something and you get in that sort of cult mentality.
Was it hot, dude? Were they hot?
Yeah, there was it burnt parts of my feet, but I swear to God I didn't feel it. Like it stung more when I like stepped on the cold water. They have like turf cold water running, and like that's when it started to burn. But like there was like he was saying like did
you go slow or you went fast?
Like just normal.
Like, yeah, right. Dude, you went fast.
No, I didn't. He spent like an hour telling you how to do this, and he said like don't run across, like don't. Like he's like that's when people would get hurt if they fall. If you try to go too fast.
Oh, that would suck. Yeah.
The main thing he said was when you get to the turf, like make sure you wipe your feet because sometimes people will get coals stuck in their feet, and there's like 2 like stuck on calluses in my feet. But anyway, I just want to tell you that because like this I found this very helpful to look at, like
to write it down.
Yeah, and to like just ask myself the questions of like why am I actually doing the things I do, and like you could sort of reprioritize everything. I think he was saying if you're trying to if the like certainty, maybe it was like if certainty and significance are the 2 like leading needs that you're prioritizing, like that's generally when you're going to be the most unhappy. And like if you're doing like if
when
you're
certainty and what?
Certainty and significance. But if like I think if like growth,
because you can't have certainty and
I mean there's just too much to
focusing
like
too much on significance.
Yeah, it's just the way you're prioritizing your life is generally going to lead to unhappiness.
I mean, certainty is why we stick with a 9 to 5 instead of trying to start our own business.
Yeah,
I got the thing in here.
Let's go.
I got the Tony Robbins book in here.
Right here.
Yeah, I'll find the last one. I actually have an extra one of these because at first they were going to give me the ticket for the virtual one. I was like, I'm not sitting in front of my computer for 4 days doing this. There's no way I could. But they sent me the extra one anyway, and then they gave me Connection. I just couldn't remember Connection and Love.
Okay, so tell them all again.
Okay, the 4 primal needs: certainty, uncertainty / variety. So just 3rd one is significance. 4th one is love and connection. Then the 2 spiritual needs are growth and contribution. And it's like, there's so many notes here. This was just like people meet these needs, like your number 1 and number 2 will determine the direction of your life. And like, essentially he was just saying if the top 2 are significance and certainty.
I wonder how often these things change.
All the time. Like that's what they said. Like they'll change at different times in your life. They'll change at like Tony Robbins. They'll change at like, like they could as much as different times.
Yeah, because I would imagine that like as your life goes, they're going to change.
Yeah, but it was really like, and like I think it's probably helpful to do that anyway. But like doing it there when you're in that state of mind, like you get like I don't know, you just get like much more depth out of it. If that makes sense.
Totally.
I don't know. I'd recommend it to anyone who's thought about going. I just will tell you, it's like there's very much a sales environment there, and they very much want to sell you stuff. So it's like, I don't know, do what you think's best for you, but like, make sure you like kind of think some of this out in advance because you get so compelled and so excited. You're like, yeah, man, like yeah, it's only $15,000. I don't got it. I'll finance it. It's like you like, yeah, this is gonna change my life. I'm gonna feel like this every day. Hell yeah. It's like you're not gonna feel like that every day. It's very exciting 4 days, but then I still have to go back to your life. Like, hopefully you can implement some of that in your life. Great. But spending $15,000 on their programs isn't like all you have to do.
I wonder how many people call their credit card company afterwards. They're like, hey, cancel that.
That's fraud.
Should get a big Tony Robbins poster in here to constantly motivate you.
You what?
Should get a big Tony Robbins poster in here somewhere just to constantly motivate you.
He's an interesting guy. He went for like 13 and a half hours straight doing this, and he's like in his 60s. And he's like, there's definitely something to him. Like, he definitely lives what he says. But like, how, like, if you can do that,
he's been doing like some of the stuff that people have caught on in the last 5 years or so. He's been doing for a long time. He's been doing cold plunges for like 15 years or more.
Yeah.
Not interested in cold plunges. I won't do them. I think it'd be like, it cures ass cancer. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't care. I read one of the books that he put out, and it was like this thick. But it kind of talked to about how his voice is so raspy now. I guess he had like some sort of like cancer or something issue, and he was like,
and he talks all the time.
Yeah, and he was like, the doctors were like, we got to fix this. He's like, no, I have to be able to talk. Like, this is my entire purpose in life, is talking to people.
He talked about that. He said like his vocal cords were like just fucked.
Yeah,
from like doing these long. He's like, I don't know. He's on like another level, but it's like it's very easy to like get excited and then think that like that's all you got to do is buy his stuff. And like I think that what they're trying to do is like with good intentions, and he has, as he's like fed billions of people that don't have food, and like he's doing a lot of really good things with his money and what he's doing. But I don't know, it's definitely like a sales conducive environment when you're with 12,000 people and they're all excited. I can only imagine what it sounds like. I don't know, like there's like 12,000 people screaming and like crazy, and like I was pretty uncomfortable for a while, and then eventually like you just literally like, oh, like now it's more uncomfortable not to do this, and then once you do it, you're like, oh, this is actually it's just fun and feels good. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? Right. I'm like so uptight and like worried about what people think that
you're I'm like fuck these people.
Like, I'm not gonna have fun. Like, I'm not gonna like enjoy this.
Yeah.
So, but after like, I don't know, after a while, it just sort of like takes you over in a good way. Like, but I could see how that could be a cult and it could ruin people's lives and they could spend all their money. I like do think it's a cult. I think it's like but it's a cult mostly for good. But like it's the type everything about it screams cult. Anyway, I'll show you that stuff.
Please do.
Yeah,
please do.
It's very helpful.
Cults aren't all necessarily bad. I mean, I feel like jiu-jitsu is a cult.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, like there's so much to jiu-jitsu that's a cult. But like, what is it doing anyone harm? Like, I think it's doing like probably like.
It literally did me harm a week ago.
I'll tell you where people would probably complain is like people that are married, like, and they're like, oh, my husband or my wife is like never here anymore, and they're like, but that's kind of their problem. Like, everyone should have something that they love and they're excited about, and people just need to learn how to sort of like integrate things into their life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have a hobby that you do like within reason.
Yeah, I had a hobby that I did for like 10 hours a week for like 2.5 years straight. And now I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus on my business and my finances a little more. And I'm slowly like doing both. I'm like balancing things a little bit better, but I don't know, that time I don't regret any of that at all. Like I'm forever grateful for everything I learned and who would help me become.
Does Zach's gym, what time do they open?
They're just doing night classes.
See, Zach, you got to go all in, dude. Classes at like 4 a.m, so people can show up.
Well, that's why like Brian has.
And I'm like half joking, but like that's how you get around the whole like, oh, this conflicts with my family or my work. It's like, well, fucking do it earlier in the morning.
Yeah.
And people will show up.
That's true. And like he'd have to bust his ass though. He'd have to get up for work, have classes, and then have it after. And like maybe that's what you need to do in the beginning when it sucks.
Or maybe that's a down the road thing when like
I'm more of joking, but like,
but that's why I've been talking about doing the gi more, because I've been saying I'm probably going to start doing more noontime classes.
Those are fun. I like those ones.
And like, you know, Brian does the 2 days a week, and then Justin does 2 days of the week, and those are good classes. So they're just like, it's a different tempo than the night classes. The night classes are the younger guys and like, you know, a lot of college age and a lot of people go hard. That's generally where most of the injuries happen too. There's definitely a higher injury rate at nighttime.
Yep.
Again, that's when I got hurt. Like that's when every time I've gotten hurt, it's at a night class. I'm like, I know that and did it, but with the way my schedule is now, the day classes make sense, and I kind of like don't know if I want to be in the gym till 8:30 at night.
Yeah, sometimes that can be like a factor. Thankfully, Vicky and I don't have kids currently, but it's like you get home at like 8:39, and then you've got to like shower, eat something, and then go to bed. And it's like this can kind of be a challenging factor at times. A big part of the reason like why she started going too was like, if I don't go, I'm never going to see my husband again. I was like, well, just come with me. Yeah. Yeah. And then she got, the jiu-jitsu bug, hooked into her too. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, since you guys are both doing it together, that's probably mostly a fun experience.
Yeah. I definitely recommend it to couples. It's good for the relationship too.
You guys can choke each other out.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fun. It's like having something that brings like you and your partner joy, and happiness, like that level. You could both like think about on the outside, and it just like takes away the bullshit of day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with Vicky for like 10 years now. So like having something that we can still do and still like have that like enjoyment in a relationship is like of a very high priority to me.
How old are you now?
26.
Yes, yeah, because you said it was like since you're 16, essentially, right?
Yep. So I was a wee little baby.
Yeah. So what else is going on, man? What's your business doing? What are you trying to do? What are you thinking?
I don't do a whole lot of thinking. The business is slow right now. Like I said earlier, it's seasonal. So not a whole lot of, excitement that goes on there. Currently the thought process is like, okay, I've identified that there's something about this I don't like. And it might be the factor that I value certainty and security. And I'm sure that's like a factor from childhood of like why that is such high valued. So the current concept is like, how do we pivot to at least a secondary thing or just ways to add security with that, right? Which is where like maybe switching the business I'm in goes, or maybe starting like a secondary side business to kind of like supplement some of that income that isn't factored as much specifically on seasonal factors, and then see if it's something that maybe if I like that more, we can transition to that being more of the like main thing.
Have you this when we were talking earlier and you were saying like we were talking about maybe you'll see someone with like 10 trucks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have the same thought because there's at least one company that has 20 vehicles, and this has been going on for years. Like it's been the bane of my existence, is sort of figuring out how to get more clients and what to do, and essentially needing to kind of show up. Like it's ironic that I'm in a business that makes me do the thing like the last thing I want to do, which is go talk to a bunch of people and kind of market what my company is. So I'm thinking with yours, like, have you tried getting many contracts for plowing, and have you thought about that?
Yeah, we've tried. The issue that I'm currently struggling at is like the ability to get proper equipment compared to like the income is not balanced right now. So it's like I need to have. It's the growing pains of any business, right? Like if you want to expand, you need to put money in there, and if you don't have business, you can't expand by growing that money and putting the money in there. And that's kind of where things are at. We've just had like a couple. We've expanded well, and now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we need to make that next step if we want to take the next step of expansion.
So I wondered if you were to get a contract for, say, a commercial lot, and it was like, hey, it's guaranteed. It's like $10,000 a month for these like 4 or 5 months of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could that give you enough? Like, go to a bank and then say, like, hey, look, we have this much guaranteed in contract. So, like, can we get this for that? And then if that goes great, like, depending on the year, you're either plowing it every day or you're just collecting a check and not plowing it at all. And then, like, I just asked because there's like someone just recently pointed out so many different ways for me to grow my business and stuff I'm not doing. And I'm like, it seems so obvious. It's like when it was said to me, but I like was so fixated on it that I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I was almost like too close to the problem.
I just found out something interesting that a real estate company does. It sounds like so I guess, simple that now that I'm like, well, duh. So what the company does is they obviously they've done this over like 40 years, so they had a long time to do this, but they started with, at some point they started with nothing. They put money in an account. It's basically, you can call it like a savings account. It's not a savings account, but you could treat it like one. They put money in an account that they don't ever touch.
Mm-hmm.
And they always use that as collateral. So if they make a big mistake or have a big problem, the bank ties can go to that basically savings account and wipe out all that money, right? But they don't wipe out the rest of the business.
Right.
And so it's like, well, this entity owns this entity, right? And this entity has $500,000 in an account, right? And if the bank has to call that note and say, hey, you like, this went bad, you owe us the money, they go to that account. That way the company stays intact, right? And the business stays intact. So it's just an interesting idea of like collateral, because that's what you're talking about. It's like you're basically saying, hey, if I have a contract for $10,000 a month for 5 months or 6 months, use that as collateral to give me a loan, right? Anyway, so it's just a different version of collateral, but it's a version of collateral that's that protects the business.
Right. Yeah, I do kind of like that. The issue too of like with the banks is just like those interest rates have been painful recently. I think I can how do I word this? I think there's possibility I could potentially get some like balloon loans from individual investors instead of like banks, and I would prefer to go that route if possible. We were working on that with that house that ended up falling through. We had one of the gentlemen from the investor group actually offered a balloon loan to kind of like help us get to just like a next little step, just like a little final chunk of the down payment, which was helpful. And I was curious too if like that would be something possible to do for the business comparative to like for my wife and I personally.
Yeah, I've said this, Kyle, I've said this to you before. And I've done this sometimes on smaller scales with stuff. And it's funny because we were just playing that cash flow game at that investor meeting. And I remember saying this, like having this realization one day, and it seems like very obvious for the situation, but like everything with money is a game. Like it literally is a game of like, and it's generally a game of like people you know and the people you start to connect yourself with, and then like how you start to leverage different things. I'll tell you that this gentleman that I just met recently, who's hopefully will be on the podcast soon, he is very high up. I'm not sure his exact position with some banks here locally. And he was saying that same thing, is you got to have a certain amount of cash, because that's always what they're going to see and say like, well, if you've got that cash, like I know that can cover, and they might even tell you to like, you need to tie that up like with them.
Right.
If say you want to swing big and you want to like,
here's the deal. It's about that whole piece I was talking about, like the different entity. People don't want to know, like people, banks are funny in that like, you get to use that over and over and over again, right?
How do you mean?
Okay, so you're Bank of America, and I have $500,000 in an account that's tied to you, right? So I went and I got a $3 million loan on that $500,000, right? Because they don't think I'm gonna lose the whole thing, but so I have like, it's almost like your down payment. So I got $3 million loan from Bank of America. Well, then I go to American Bank of Montana and I get another $3 million loan on the same $500,000.
So you're borrowing against that same.
You put it away once and you keep borrowing against it. Now, if you had a problem all at once, well, all the banks would be screwed, right? Because one would collect and then the rest of them would never get their money, right? But you get kind of what I'm talking about. Is like you only have to have the money once or put it away once. Yeah. And then you get to use it and use it and use it and use it and use it.
But if you, as Tony Robbins would say, like uncertainty is one of the main drivers in your life, like you want a lot of uncertainty, you're going to borrow against that 10 times and you're going to be like, fuck this, I don't know what's going to happen. This is kind of fun. Like that might be what drives your life.
Right.
I'm
But
just
and in a sense, you could look at it in a couple of different ways, right? So you could look at it as, oh shit, I'm scared because I have that borrowed against 10 times. Or you can look at it and go, those guys are idiots that they gave me $3 million off of something that's been borrowed against 9 other times. So those guys should be scared, right? Because it's their money that's on the line. It's almost like not yours, right? Same thing with like the Burr method, the buy, refinance,
Rehab and rent.
yeah, and then repeat, right? So it's like those guys always say, so you put a $50,000 down payment, right, and you bought a house, and then that house went up in value. Let's just say it's 18 months later, 2 years later, the house went up in value, and let's just say the interest rates are basically the same, right? So you refinance, right? So now the house, it was worth 400 grand, now it's 550, right? So you take your 50 grand out, you get your money back. It was your 50 grand. So you go get your money back. You refinance the house at another 30-year loan for $500,000, and you got all your money back
And an asset.
And you still have and you have an asset, right? And so people are like, well, that's crazy. Like, no, I got my money back, and I have the house.
Right.
So you have 2 things before you had 1, right? So it's like, all right, and people think that's an uncomfortable idea. It's like, well, you just got your money back.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me.
yeah. Remind me to explain to you the gift of equity too that someone told me about.
Okay.
I feel like because Ryan was texting me last night. He's like, dude, we gotta sit down and get coffee. I've got like so many ideas I'm thinking about.
He sent the same text to me too.
All right, so like I think at least the 4 of us
Trying to make something happen.
No, but like I just think of this, and I just had this thought of, what if you reverse engineer this? Like, what if you think, okay, I've got unlimited amounts of money, and I have all these people coming to me that want to have a little bit of the money. Like they need a tiny piece of it. So how am I going to make a little money off that and make sure I'm safe? But if you start to think from that view, you're gonna start to realize what's the smartest thing for them to do, and you're also gonna see why they think the way they do. Like we say, the banks. I mean, like the banks seem like some you just think of like a big brick and mortar bank or like it's something. It's not even, but it's just people that are in this position at the top. They're like, hey, everyone needs me because I've got all the money. So like, how am I going to use that advantage to make even more money and like give them some so they can do a little bit, which is going to contribute to our society. But I want to make sure I don't get burned.
The funny thing is the banks break all the rules that they don't allow you to break. Right. So what do I mean by that is, like, first off, you think you have, let's just say you have, $10,000 in the bank. You don't have $10,000 in the bank. They've loaned that $10,000 out, right? And they're actually making loans on money that, and so like the money's not like there. So like the rule of thumb for banks is they loan out 10 times the amount of money that they technically have.
I think
that's crazy.
Yeah, but I think it's different though, because if you're going on the law of averages when there's that many people, like you can't do that when you're an individual, but when they're the scale of people that they're working with, like
right. But I think people falsely think that their money's in the bank. It's not.
But it is. If they needed to get it, they could.
Yeah, but if everybody came and collected, they'd be screwed.
I guess, but like there'd be a lot bigger issues than like if everyone in the world's trying to.
Right, but what I'm getting at is the bank. If you ran your business that way, they'd be like, "We're not giving you a loan. You don't have any money."
Yeah, but I think your business is so much smaller than that. Like I don't think that's the same. Because
they have so many clients.
Yeah,
sure.
Because you're just one person with like maybe 5 employees, and like they're like. I just think the scale of the amount of people is they can just go law of averages. If everyone's in the world's trying to withdraw their bank, like the whole system has collapsed, and like so great, we've all got like
yeah. I just think it's interesting that like I get what you're saying. They put you through this application process, and then they qualify you, and you're like, dude, you're the one over here doing cocaine with hookers and shit. Like like what?
They can afford it,
right? I guess.
when Kyle left earlier, we were talking about AI, and
Yeah.
we wanted to come back to that. Do you remember what that was?
Oh no, maybe. Well, that's when I was going to start. I was going to tell you the Tony Robbins thing.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I was. But we were saying something about AI. I can't remember.
Being a tool.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which is there's definitely is a tool that you can either you're either going to use it and adapt it into your business and have a more advantageous business that's current that people use, or you won't, and then you'll your business will slowly fade out as younger generations become the sort of the center of the economy, because they're going to be the ones
I mean, okay, let's go back to banks, right? When they first started having ATMs, right? It's like now every bank has an ATM. Like what bank do you have to walk in the door and exchange cash?
Yeah.
You know, and then ATMs now are basically gone, right? Because nobody uses cash. I mean, that's in a sense it's just technology that people had used, right? And I think you figure out how to use it. You use it for what it works well, and then as it gets better, you keep using more of it, more of it.
The reason I say that we should all meet up and talk, though, is because the woman that is my now landlord on the shop I'm renting for Mountain Mule, she said she's a real estate broker.
Mm-hmm.
She has been for 30 plus years, commercial, towards the end of her career. And she's essentially saying what's been talked about in the investor groups is it's way too expensive to do anything here. She said anyone doing anything here are large groups. They're large investing groups. They're large owners groups. No, she said you can't do what you could maybe do in Butte or do in Billings, which is similar to what Ryan's done, is they've rehabbed a place, they bought a place, they're going to rent it out. But my thought is, okay, so it sounds like the answer is to form a group, a group of us, and how you structure that so that there's I guess a fair level of input and safety for people would all be things we could figure out. But we're all just regular dudes. Don't you guys want to become one of those groups and become those people? Because I mean, otherwise it's just going to be people that have the formula are just going to keep scaling it.
It's funny you mentioned that too. That was actually a big part of why I talk to so many people. Hey, come to the in-group, try to and see kind of their goals align too. Because Kiyosaki even talked about that. Robert Kiyosaki about how you need a team.
Yeah,
you cannot do it solo. Maybe a few people can, but the vast majority of people need to have a team, and that's where the success comes from. Yeah, and they still have teams.
You can try and struggle and be 10 times as long. And I don't know. Me and Kyle just looked at a place, and it's part of me is man, I want to get some skin in the game. I want to do this because the longer I sit here and say, well, when this is ready, that's going to go on forever, and that's going to be a mentality. And then I want to buy a place for myself too.
Yeah.
So I'm man, how do I one is going to stop the other. They're both going to they're both sort of conflicts of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm but I think with the right structure and enough people involved and enough input on how to structure this, I think it could be something very cool if it's the right group of guys, and then we sort of have to create something that if you end up not being the right person for the group, there's that can be agreed upon, or then there's a good way to buy that person out or do whatever, because obviously there has to be some level of chemistry and agreeability within the group. And
right,
I mean, not that our government's a great model, but there was stuff put in place so long ago that so that you couldn't just nobody could be totally taking advantage of the system and yada yada. I don't know, but it's a thought I would love to get enough guys interested in and really all work. I think if you put that many minds together, we could probably come up with something pretty badass.
Yeah, kind of circles back the first thing we were talking earlier. You really want to be on the top alone?
Yeah. And then everyone individually starts to grow, and it's cool. Now I can go buy my own house for myself and my family, or I can do this, and you can sort of go. You can still be your individual in the ways you want to be, and then this group can have its sort of collective goal to however it makes money. And if we all contribute, but that's all the banks are doing. The banks have so many people at the top that have like the scale of all their money put together, they have so much power. And that's why people are paying, 7 or 8% interest.
I really appreciate how your mindset is, here's how we can do this, instead of, I can't do this because of X, or I can't do this because of this, or I can't do this because of that. Like that mindset is so frustrating. And there's so many folks I know who I care for deeply that are like, there's always a reason of like why they can't do it, or why it's not possible, or it's too hard, or it's this or it's that. It's like, just do it. Like, just decide you're going to do the thing, make steps towards the things, make small little wins that add up, and then you can do it.
Well, that was what was so interesting about this woman who's now my landlord. She had said, well, you basically can't do that here now. Like, you can't. She said, because all the people that are doing it are big groups. And I'm like, oh, I hear what she's saying, but what I really hear is,
you should be a big group.
You should start to become a big group. So
Right.
like, those are your two options. I love it here. I want to stay here. So I know it's expensive. So I'm going to try to find a solution to be able to stay here. So I don't know. That was all that that's what I got out of that conversation was,
I think there's also people think they have to, because they think there's a risk in doing it with other people, which there is risk in doing with other people. There also could be a really good reward. And if you structure it properly, I think you can kind of get rid of a lot of those risks, right? And so I think it's all about like structuring the agreements properly. That's my understanding. I've never done anything like that, but people figure out a way to do it, and they're like, all right, cool. You get 2%, you get 10%. This other person gets 20%. And like, people are like, yeah, well, I'm only in the game 2%. I'm only in the game 10%. So like, great. You have different skills. And so that's my understanding of how those kinds of things are made up, so that it actually works for everybody. And so you're like, well, yeah, this does make sense. Like,
you just made me think of something.
You're going to make $50 a month on it. You might make $250 on it a month on it. Some other person's going to make $1,000. Well, yeah. Okay, fine. And you're happy making $50. You're like, great. No problem.
What you just made me think of is, you said people are afraid of getting involved with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm afraid of getting involved with other people.
Yeah, and I've just recently heard this. I guess I'll leave all names out of it because it's just slightly irrelevant. And but someone was saying that they started buying properties when they were younger with the groups of people, groups of friends. They the first place they went in on together, and then they rented out a few rooms, and then they did it. They started to scale that model, and then when this gentleman got a little bit older, he got married, and he had kids, and he thought, as soon as I have kids, I'm ending all those relationships because I don't want my whole family to be at that risk, because there's the risk of all the other people. So he did, and he still owns some places himself, and his thought was, there's a risk because I don't know what you or Mike are going to do, and you guys might have different motives, but then you are going and you're partnering with a bank, and the only reason the bank feels safe is because of the way they structure it. Because I'm sure both of you guys have signed loans. They're 30 pages, but there's no reason we couldn't set that up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could have just as much security within a small group that benefits us versus having security with a bank that it benefits the bank. Because
yeah. So one of the ways that people structure some of these group real estate deals is that whoever puts the most money in gets paid first. And then whoever puts the second most money in gets paid second.
Uh-huh.
And so everything is built on the amount of money that you're in. So it's black and white, right? It's not, there's no emotions about it. It's like, if this investment goes completely backwards, we're all screwed, right? And we're all screwed together. But when we get paid, this person gets paid first, this person gets paid second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? And if the investment doesn't make enough money to pay everybody, then it pays everybody according to what they put in, right? So it's you made $1, you made 80 cents, you made 70, you made 20.
Yeah. See, my thought is and I'm not this is just a thought I'm having off the top of my head, is have it so that everyone in the group puts in the same amount, and that's the cap, whatever the lowest amount is, just because that to me feels more like a team. Like I get what you're saying, and that makes sense. But I would want it to feel more like a team. Like we're all in this equally together. So whether like the person that one person can't meet it, then like to decide like, hey, this is like we have to like cut you out of this deal. Like I don't know, but I think that like that mentality that makes sense from a business standpoint. But it like I don't know, it creates a hierarchy where it doesn't seem like everyone's equally invested because they're not.
There's majority partners and there's limited partners too, and typically these groups as well.
Yeah. So I guess it depends. Like I don't know, you just have to. It all have to be structured, and I'm like just speaking off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have this discussion without Ryan. Forget him. We're cutting Ryan out of the deal. Ryan Garden, you're not needed. You're irrelevant. I hope you're having fun in Boston. Thanks for coffee on Friday. It was delicious. Just kidding. We didn't have it because you bailed.
Yeah, what the heck, Ryan?
I hope those appetizers you were sampling for your work event were tasty.
You got the same text I got then. Yeah.
At least he's consistent.
Yes. Yeah, he came over for like the fight night one night. I was like, "Did you want to do coffee tomorrow?" And I was like, "Sure." And he messages me in the morning. He's like, "Dude, no." I was like, "Yeah, we were up watching a fight card till like 11:30." I think the cool thing about that group idea too is like there's already a blueprint of how that can be structured. Like a lot of these things in life we want to do, we don't have to build from the ground up. Like there is a framework. There's a lead. There's someone who did it beforehand. So like you already have this like frame that you can just build your plans on.
Yeah, and then it's like I don't know. I guess you just have to get enough people that like can all agree on the same sort of like intention. You remember when we went and talked to EJ and we were talking about that business?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, like, me and Kyle started asking us questions about what we were doing in the business. And if we've kind of discussed it, it was going to be three of us. And we hadn't thought of any of these questions. So, but yeah, like you said, there's a formula. I think if there's enough things that align, hey, what's the main outcome we want to accomplish here? And like, what do we like? And then like what we do with what we make off of that is up to us. You know what I mean? But like as long as that entity is aligned, because we're not like if we're all trying to go in opposite directions, it's obviously not going to work very well.
One of the things I've really appreciated about living here in Bozeman is like the concentration of people who have like run successful businesses or have invested or have just like achieved a level of success to like own a house here or live here is so dense. Just like the knowledge out there is just infinite.
Yeah.
It's like if you're driving people up to Big Sky, like just the conversations I've had with people out there, it's just like it's an education all of its own just living in a place like this.
Yeah, there's something very interesting about people like who have figured out a way to afford that.
Mm-hmm.
And like they've obviously figured something out that's to a large extent outside the norm.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like they're still humans. They still have 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. Like it's not like there's something completely separate. Like I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about that. Like everything in life, someone if it's something you see that you want, that means somebody was able to do that and get there.
Yeah, the woman that gave myself and my girlfriend the tickets to that Tony, like she has an extraordinary amount of wealth, and she's been a client for quite a few years, and she's a friend. Like she's a normal person. She's very down to earth. But there's things she's definitely doing a lot different, and it's I don't know, like that's kind of the whole point of the investor group is the people you get around. You start to get around people that think different. You start to think different. It starts to snowball. Eventually, like it becomes a pretty big snowball, and then like hopefully you're helping people out like the same way.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like even like Pat, he's doing a lot that's helping everyone out. He probably doesn't have to do that. Like he's not like obviously he's not getting paid to do that, but he's facilitating these events and he's creating this whole environment where people can learn more and do more for themselves.
and what a cool environment it is too. Sometimes you go in there and it's like there's this feeling I have to mentally challenge of like I don't belong in this room, and then it's like, you know what? Nope. Everybody had to start from ground one at one point too, and they got to where they are now, which I think is like healthy to have the constant challenging of not just external factors but internal factors as well.
Yeah, and you, like I said, shout out to you again for letting me know about that. It's been cool. And Kyle's gone. I've tried to invite some people. If there's like at least two, I can't even remember who the second one is, but there's two people I'm gonna tell to come to the January one because I just like thought of them like, hey, you might be interested in this.
I think my grandfather might be presenting at one of them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That man, the stuff he's doing is something that I like. I don't know how, if it's possible, but he's getting to a point where I think he wants to retire in the next like 10 years. And it's something like, if I could take those reins and run with it, that would be.
What's he do?
I don't have the scientific backing how to fully explain what he does. Long story short, his company, Next Gen Fluid, owns patented these like machines that are a disc filtration system. But the usages of it is he took like let me think about this because I don't want to butcher this. It's certain filtration system can filter water, not into potable water, but into like, he went to, I think it was in Indonesia, and there was like a palm mill, and they took the toxic water and they made it not toxic anymore. I think they also have the ability to take salt water and make it filtered without a scaling
What's the
problem.
company called?
Next Gen Fluid. I think it's Next Gen Fluid Enterprises. Yeah, that'll have all of the details on it.
How long has he been doing it?
I think 10 years now or something like that.
What's his position in it?
He is the CEO.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a really
Where's it based?
company. It's in Wyoming. They live in Sheridan, but he's got partners who are in Colorado, and then somewhere in
Next Gen Fluid Power.
That might be it.
Kyle, do you have OpenAI or anything on your phone?
Oh yeah, I have a little ChatGPT app.
I was gonna say like just ask ChatGPT to like give you like a brief summary of what that company does. Do you have it, Kyle?
I don't know if this is the same company. Hydraulic pressure washers and power units.
That's not it, no. Look up just Next Gen Fluid. There's a business card sitting at home that I can like picture it. I think there's like a dash between Next Gen and then Fluid.
My girlfriend's been telling me for the last, I don't know how many months, that I need to download the ChatGPT app on my phone. I'm downloading it now.
I was like, why have you not?
I know, because I use it all the time on my browser, but that's how I am. Like, I don't use any social media unless I do it all on my computer.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not social media.
Yeah, I know. I just like, I'm very like wary of what I'll put on my phone because I know it just like, it sucks everything out of me.
Yeah, thankfully, like that platform isn't, it's
generally helpful.
Yeah. I don't find myself hopping on there just for fun. It's like I have a problem or something in my brain that I want to figure out.
It all becomes a crutch, though. When we were doing this Tony Robbins thing, there was so much stuff we were writing by hand, and I realized how bad my spelling is because I just rely on my phone to correct it for me. So I never think about English or how stuff is spelled, and I'm like, wow, like my mind's gotten lazier with spelling because I never stop and think like, how does that word sound? How do you spell it? I just let it correct it.
Can we go down this rabbit hole real quick?
Yes. Kyle, I just want to make a point. It's nice that you always ask before we go down rabbit holes.
All right, we're going deep.
I'm saying it's nice. I'm not. So play. Talking
about like, we like to talk about like ancient civilizations and say like, oh, well, like, they didn't have the technology that we have nowadays. So like, there's no way that could be done. I think it's interesting because like we've forgotten how to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's things that if you gave a kid right now, something from 50 or 75 years ago, they wouldn't know how to figure it out.
How many phone numbers do you have memorized?
Like 3, right?
Right.
And so there's things that we've forgotten how to do that we used to know how to do, and it's only been a short period of time. And so I think it's interesting that we say like, oh, well, like no, just like they knew how to do something and then it got forgotten.
Yeah.
It got lost. So,
Well, I just heard, I think it was like, I don't know if it was Mark Andreessen or one of these guys that they were essentially saying, I don't think it was him, but that like our whole education system's going to need to change. Like for obviously there's a lot of obvious reasons it already does, but we're not like math and simple things like grammar aren't things that we're going to need to know anymore. Like that's all going to be automated. So we're like, it's great because it can allow us to, think in like much, I guess, in bigger terms.
Well, yeah,
like,
think about that. But what if humans don't know how to do math?
well, think about like, it's funny that you're saying this though, and I agree, but I
So
think
all of a sudden you turn off all the computers.
this conversation's been going on for
people are
hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years.
Because people have been saying like, yeah, these calculators, like people aren't going to know how to add, and like,
Right.
no one's going to do longhand math now, and like I'm sure right now accountants are saying like, yeah, like this, like people are just like using computers to do their bookkeeping. Like, yeah, it's bookkeeping. Like a human life is so much more valuable than just like writing down people's books all day.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I'm agreeing with you. And what I'm saying is
However,
that we've just lost, like we forgot and lost how to do things, right?
Yeah.
Like a sextant, right? A sextant is, a device that you can like look at the stars and you can literally like GPS your coordinates with a freaking mechanical tool, right? So like Lewis and Clark, when they went across the U.S., they were locating themselves within very close distances by just looking at the stars. And that's fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody knows how to do that anymore. There are people in the world that still know how to do that, but like that's how sailors used to get around the world. That's how explorers got around the world, and like they could locate where they were. Most 99.999% of people don't know how to do that anymore. And so all I'm saying is, if we think like, oh, how did they build the pyramids? Well, they had some form of, they did it somehow, and we don't know how to do it because that information is gone.
Yeah.
It's not because they didn't have a crane big enough to do it. Like I don't know how they did it, but something got lost.
My argument is just that we don't need to know how to do that stuff now. Like it's irrelevant right now for the world we live in.
Right.
Like if you want to learn that, that's great, and it's probably very cool. And like if the whole system collapses, that'll be great. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, sorry, what were you gonna say?
You should probably go first.
No, go for it.
No, you should probably go first.
I was just gonna say, have you talked to your grandfather about like possibly doing something with this company or getting involved with it?
Yeah, there's not really a place for me. We talk about it often. My grandparents are, very close, but I don't know where we'd start. But I still have the ability to talk to him about it and like be surrounded by it. But there's not anything set in stone right now.
You should say, "Great, Gramps. Who can I just hang out next to and see what they're doing every day for free?" And like, I don't know, like maybe you'll create the place for yourself where you'll get enough information to where you'll be some sort of asset to the company. I don't know. Just throwing ideas out there.
Right. And the challenging factor currently is like he's here and then another partner's in Colorado and then another partner's in UK or something like that. And then the one's over in like Taiwan or some shit like that. The concept and the possibilities though for what that patent can do, I think could like really solve massive problems. Just water as a whole is like the most important resource. Like it's the most absolute important resource, because if you don't have water, you have no microchips, you have no food, you have nothing else if water isn't clean and readily available.
It's funny that we're having this conversation right now because Kyle, you know why?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big thing, and I'd like to see that business be scaled to like an even larger size, and specifically like fresh water from like seawater and stuff, or areas in like Phoenix or Vegas or like Southern California, places that don't have that or have just destroyed the Colorado River, like ways to make that back to a feasible solution of enough water. My question I was going to ask, because I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about this time around, what are your guys' opinions on aliens?
Kyle?
I mean, I'm interested in this currently, just based on what's going on the East Coast with those drones. Have you guys been paying attention to that? I say drones, they're not. We don't know what the fuck they are. So you can like look back over the last, I don't know, let's say 10 years, and you can like look up on C-SPAN government employees basically saying, hey, like, we found things that are not human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, they're testifying under oath that they found things that are not human. So it's interesting. It's like, well, there's stuff out there. And it makes complete sense to me. Like, the universe is so big. Why would we expect to be the only life form?
Right.
We learn how to, we've mastered how to travel this planet. We've traveled to a couple others. And so wouldn't it make sense that other life forms mastered how to travel at their planet and can move around the universe? So anyway, I think, yeah, man, it's going to be, we might find out a lot in the next, I guess the rest of my life, let's call it the next 45, 50 years.
Right.
Probably find out a lot about them.
Yeah. Statistically, like with just the size of the universe, like you said, and the amount of like planets that are out there, like it would be equally as horrifying if there was no other life out there and we were the only life in the entirety of the universe.
Yeah, it goes. This is the same sentiment that I totally disagree with. Of like, we look back at ancient civilizations and like, oh, they're so stupid. Like we're so smart nowadays, right? It's like the same idea. Like, oh, well, like we have to be like the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, dude, like that is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous idea.
What's your opinion, Tim?
Yeah, I definitely think they like gotta be real. It'd be insane to think that we're the only life. To me, it excites me. Like that there's like, I think we're like a grain of sand on a beach, like Earth. That in my, like, I think there's just so much going on that's so far beyond what we can conceptualize.
Right.
And I just think that I heard somebody say this. They're like, almost we only have the facilities, like our vision, and senses that we have, because if we would be like so overwhelmed if we could like actually comprehend the scale of what goes on in existence. I even think about that as far as
I also think it would be helpful.
Helpful.
Yeah, like you say, we'd be overwhelmed. I think people would just fucking relax.
I don't
to be like, look, there's all this other shit out there. Just fucking relax and enjoy yourself. Like,
you mean specifically aliens, not like stimuli, correct?
I mean that like part of, I think, the human condition on this planet that is hard on people is that like we think that everything is defined, and it's like, well, you have to do it this way and you have to do it that way and you have to live this way. And it's like, no, dude, like this shit is all undefined and all unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it actually would be helpful to be like just to know how many other things are, or at least just have a tiny window into how many other things are happening in the universe. And so like people are so worried about climate change, right? And they're, people are just, they're so worried about it. And like, the blip of time is if you just thinking about time and you're like, wow, like I wonder how much the earth has changed in the last 1,000,000 years, and that's a blip of time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I think it would actually be helpful to people. I think we're stressed out about things that are totally irrelevant on a grand scale, and so I think it would help people.
Here's what I'll say back to that. So this is coming from taking mushrooms, okay? And I think, which I've only done like a couple, like I've done like microdosed here and there periodically, but I've only done like 2 serious, like heavy hard trips. They were not for recreational purposes; they were for therapeutic purposes. And like the second time, I think I took a little too much, and it took me like a week or 2 to like get like.
You're still not fine.
Yeah, you're right. Clearly. But it took me like a few weeks to just just relax and like be okay. But I swear, like you say, like you think it would be fine. I think it'd be too much. Like I don't think you could actually even function in this world.
Is that because you think like, and I don't mean like I'm going to say this, I don't mean this. Is it like well, it's not directed at you. It's directed at all humans on Earth. It's more like we think we're so fucking important and we're not.
No, I just think that like, and I'm just speaking from my personal experience with psychedelics, mushrooms, is I think that the scale of what goes on, like, and the complexity of existence in the world is too much to comprehend, to where it's like it's unsettling. You can't actually tolerate the anxiety and the emotions of it. So like we can see, like, you know, you slowly evolve over time, like your 80 or 100-year lifetime, like you slowly learn more, and you can like
I'm living to 120, bro.
like you can't handle so much, like the realities of life are harsh and like good and bad. I think like when you take psychedelics, you can have a little like sort of a peek into that. But like I think when people take way too much and like lose their mind, and like this is like what I sort of experience, is that like when people have way too much, they like lose it and they like can't come back. Like I think that you can't recover from that, because you're essentially trying to see more than you're ready for.
So you don't. I hear what you're saying, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You don't think that people would maybe freak out for a while and then recalibrate. You don't think that they would recalibrate.
Yeah, to an extent, like, but like that's like one thing. Like I think like the complexity of everything is like like I think we do that in progressional steps right now. I think there's a new thing that comes out. It's ChatGPT. It's like whatever, and then we like, I don't know, a lot of people freak out, and I'm like, well, actually, this is kind of cool, and then people start to get used to it. Now there's like people's grandparents are using smartphones and everything, and like they were like, you know how they were with technology like 10 years ago, but like kids, like 3 and 4-year-old kids, pick up phones and know how to use them now.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
I think it's cool. So like, yeah, I think there's got to be aliens. How could there not be?
Yeah.
Like I think we would really think we were pretty important and special if we thought we were the only things that existed.
Well, some people are that arrogant. I'm intrigued to see like if a UFO came down and like landed on the White House lawn, like what that would do to like religious structures. Like there's individuals that would believe like the Earth is like 6,000 to 8,000 years old and dinosaurs didn't exist, and it's like interesting.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like that would shake just like a lot of religions to its core. It also might be like one of the things too that where it's like, hey, can we all stop fucking fighting over stupid bullshit? Like, really, we're all ants in a colony that just want to kill another.
If we realized there was like another colony that we had to worry about, like you'd see everyone unite pretty fast.
We make up all these things that like they're like made up for a period of time, like borders, right, between countries, and you're like, well, like you realize that like not that long ago that place wasn't even that country. It was some other country, and we liked those people. And now all of a sudden we don't, and they have a different. They redrew the border, right, and so it's in a different spot, or it got taken over by another, you know, and so that's all made up stuff, right? Like where that border lies, and it's like, you know, we like, okay, China, okay, which part of China, right? Like what if China went to war with a neighboring country, and then that neighboring country took over 3/4 of China,
right?
Well, then we'd be against whoever the new regime is, maybe, right? Or maybe we'd be on board with them. Anyway, my point is, it's shit's all made up.
Yep.
Right? Like it's all like we're making it up for a period of time. But you go back, you know, really not that long ago, and you're like, well, China wasn't called China then. The United States wasn't the United States then. You know, like I think if my map serves us properly, like we're sitting in Mexico right now at some point.
I mean, Montana does come from the Spanish word for mountain too. Montaña.
Yeah, we have
how do you say it?
Montaña.
We have Spanish on our flag.
These Montañans.
Yeah, the oro y plata.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just like, you know, not that long ago, nobody cared about this particular border where we're sitting.
The real question is, what do you think about them, Mike?
I think, like I said earlier, statistically, it would be weird if they didn't exist. It would be as horrifying if they didn't, if we were alone in this expansive universe that's X billion light years across. And it would also be horrifying if they could come here at the same time. But I think the ones out east are just drones. I think that the government's. I saw something that was like Iran had some shit. This was like an article, so I was like, that makes the most sense. That Iran was like planning an attack or something, and it was like government drones looking for like radiation or things like that. And I was like, that would make sense, because I also feel like our military has things where they're like, yeah, we don't know what this is, kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys like. If there's one thing I've learned in the last like 5 to 10 years with
The problem, I would say the problem with some of this stuff is that, like,
hey, did the middle of my sentence interrupt you?
Yeah.
Yours?
go ahead.
Just
go
like you did his before you asked me about aliens.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No, you're. I don't know what I was going to say. So go ahead.
I just wonder how many people can keep quiet about this kind of stuff.
I think Rogan talks about it being like compartmentalized. So it's not like a couple individuals know everything. Like, you know, like a part of this, and you know a part of this, and you know a part of that. So you can't be like, for sure, that's how, you know, this is the case.
I guess that would be a good way to keep it under wraps.
Yeah. I mean, we've still got secrets over other things too. Like what happened to JFK, you know?
That was shout out to Matt Wobschnack. That's his line that I just stole. Did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours? I was saying, like, if there's one thing I've learned in the last 5 to 10 years, like with all the media and access to information, is like there's a lot that you really can't trust from our government and the powers that be. Like there's don't get me wrong, there's good that we have the structure. The government is needed that we do, but like there's a lot of shit going on that's like there's just kind of like a depth of lies and I don't know, just like different motives. And yeah, like anything you just said, from JFK to like there's all kinds of stuff. It's,
even like our food.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we feeding each other?
Yeah. Yeah, but like you compare what's in our food to like any food anywhere, like stuff that's illegal in so many other countries that's not here. You go on forever. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's aliens, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that's like somebody's totally doing to try to like start some narrative for some political or financial reason. So God, who knows?
We've been going at this for a while. I just realized, holy shit, it's 11.
Yeah, you said you got to roll soon, right?
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, you need to.
You guys got to check out this this alien story from like I think it's from the 50s in northern Brazil.
Yes, I have heard about this one.
Yeah, I think I have too. And there was like, they like found some like, didn't like people get like radiation or something from one, like whatever this body was that they found?
People had been getting like, it's almost like lasers, and they were getting zapped and burned. And so people were getting like burned from this UFO through like, you know, through light transmission. So that's like the physical evidence. But then I guess there's a bunch of film that the Brazilian government ultimately gave all the documentation to the U.S. and it's never been seen since. So there's a bunch of like footage of like hundreds of UFOs all at the same time coming in and out of the water. Anyway, like I sound like Alex Jones.
We should do a tinfoil hat podcast one of these times. Just dive in.
We're gonna have to drink.
Yes, yes.
We were talking with Brian.
So that we'll be on top of our fucking game.
2 things I got to make sure I say before we wrap this up.
Oh, we gotta bring Brian in. Did he drink?
No.
Oh, he's gonna have.
He would like
he'd have to
occasionally.
make an exception.
Like, it depends. I don't know if he'd like you know, he's got to like. Brian's a very public guy. I don't know if he'd wanted to like, or public figure, I'll say, like at least in our world.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd want to drink on a podcast, but Brian, I was telling him, his buddies, a buddy of mine from back east, there's a bunch of them, and every Thursday they meet in somebody's garage and they drink and discuss conspiracy theories.
Okay.
And Brian's like, I want to be a part of it.
We should do like a conspiracy theory party. We have to drink, and everybody has to bring like their top 3.
Our subscriptions are going back into the single digits.
Or maybe you find that's what actually blows the
then
podcast up.
it's just like thousands of people are subscribing.
As long as we're having fun, who gives a shit?
Yeah, you're right. I agree completely. The other thing I was thinking, you were talking about your grandfather's business. Hopefully he speaks at the meeting.
Yeah.
a friend of mine and Kyle's a friend of ours. We've been talking to him about going on a podcast. Hopefully he does it. And he's got like a lot of opinions and thoughts about just the water in the West, the lack thereof, that we're going to run out. And it's like a slightly controversial topic with Big Sky and everything else. But as you were saying, I think he'd pretty much agree with that. Water is like the most important thing, and like there's a huge issue going on here locally where we're going to run out of water with the amount of stuff we're building, and everyone's turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah,
not everybody,
but there's not enough people. I don't know. I guess enough people aren't talking about it to where it's being addressed.
Yeah, I'm just like, and I don't know who these people are, but the
banks.
Somebody's paying attention to it, and somebody's going to make a lot of money off it.
Yeah, sure.
And you know what they say? Gangsters move in silence.
Okay.
So
what are you up to, Conrad?
I don't know. You know,
according to Snoop Dogg.
That's it, dude. According to Snoop Dogg.
You're what? Certified gangster?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know why they made sidewalks?
Why?
Because the streets ain't for everybody.
Oh, shit.
Peace out.
That's cool. Let's end it now.
Mike, can we do anything to promote your business? Can you tell anyone anything about it? Anyone help you out in any way?
No, right now we're pretty solid. Just waiting for snow. Life is good.
If anyone knows anyone that would be good connections for Mike with his landscaping business, or any thoughts that anything you think Mike might be interested in. Also, I keep meaning to say this, at least on our podcast or something, but if you know anyone locally around here that you think would be a good guest, or you want to be a guest, reach out to Kyle. No, really, reach out to us though, and we will most likely love to have you on, unless you're
awesome.
A real weirdo. All right, Mike Kindle, love you, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Bye.